and just kind of that starting
Yeah.
piece here, the state of influencer marketing. And we will also make these slides available in the show notes and resources there. So we can get into that. So I think, Candace, we can talk a little bit about as Daphne reorients herself, we can get into
Mhm.
this here. Talking about these
Yes.
rising hard costs like tariffs. If we can go
Yeah,
over to slide 4.
we've seen a lot of our own personal content creators affected by this. A lot of our content creators are also business owners, and they're diversifying their income through cookbooks, self-publishing their own cookbooks, having their own line of products. And so they're being hit hard with these tariffs. So uh, CPG brands, food brands are now paying more for everything from packaging to ingredients, with those tariff increases and rising shipping costs as well. So, often this means that marketing budgets become the first place to trim, as many of you have seen over, with past things, marketing is the first to go. And while cutting ad spending might feel necessary, influencer marketing still offers flexibility and strong ROI when approached strategically. So I think that's something to keep in mind, definitely.
Yeah, and so I think like in terms of this, it's really this conversation of we like you as the brand, you already understand how inflation has impacted your product and your company, or how tariffs, might, because yesterday was um Liberation Day. So, I mean, we are seeing, an increase of what is it, 9% to 10% on a lot of imports, just depending on where they're from. There's a lot of factors going into, where you source your ingredients from, especially like in the CPG space. It is so dependent. It depends on what products you're using and what you do in the supply chain with that. From my understanding, and some people in articles that I've read and conversations that I've had with some of these small makers and manufacturers of, it needs to be approached with a fine-tooth scalpel almost, because everybody's business model is so different. And so I just want to call that out, that like we see that, we understand that, um, and are aware of the challenges that a lot of these uh, tariffs and new policies, how they are impacting that. And so I think like what we want to talk about here specifically is why influencer marketing is still one of the most flexible ROI driven tools when done right, and why we feel like this is definitely an area within marketing that you should still consider. So unlike fixed costs for paid media or traditional advertising, influencer campaigns can be scaled to fit your budget and your goals specifically, based on what you're looking for. So if you've attended these in the past, and you can always watch the previous replays that we have in our previous two webinars that we have done, just talking overall about how to do partnerships. We've interviewed and brought on some current food creators that we have relationships with, talking about some of those pain points, or how you identify influencers to work with. There's a lot of due diligence that definitely with understanding your audience and making sure that you are picking the right creator and the right influencer for your audience. And I think the really great thing overall that we've talked a lot about is that working with creators allows for evergreen content. It allows for that authentic storytelling piece, which I know as brands, it is a bit of a buzzword right now in the marketing world of storytelling. But essentially, we are all creatures of sharing stories. We like to hear them. There's a reason why it is so effective and important, right? Because we want to hear people's experiences and want to see ourselves within the products that we buy or whatever it is that we're consuming on the internet. And I think it's important to say that social media is not going anywhere too. I think that, and that is just my own opinion, and I will stand by that. I think that investing in food content creators specifically as an influencer marketing vertical is a way to build trust. And I don't want to come out and be like, it's recession proof, but based on just the feedback and some of the small qualitative and some quantitative data that we've seen just on the tastemaker side of things is we gather surveys from our audience and from our community and the conversations that we're having. It is still a very viable place because everybody has to eat. And
Mhm.
people, the internet is not going away. People are going to be Googling how to make recipes. Whether, maybe they have to shift during this time with inflation and rising costs. Maybe they're going to be shifting what they're cooking, but they're still going to be cooking. And so I think it's being aware of your audience and your consumer needs, and then finding the creators that can deliver on that. So that
Well,
is
and what did we
definitely part of that. Yeah.
yeah, and what did we see during COVID is the rise of TikTok and Instagram Reels
Mhm.
and stories because people turned to their favorite creators to give them a piece of community while also then learning how to cook new things, consume new products. It was actually really great. And so unlike traditional advertising, the costs are fixed. I love that when you're working with a creator, the right creator, you can scale up or down to match your goals and resources, which is nice. When you work with traditional, it's this is the cost, this is what it is. And so that's one of my favorite things. But then also a well executed influencer post becomes a mini focus group. So it's a user review, it becomes a creative
Mhm.
asset all in one. These are all things that come just from working with a really great influencer. And so you're getting multiple things that you where in traditional advertising it's just one, it's fixed cost. So that
Mhm.
goes along with the storytelling too. But I think that it's more bang for your buck, if you will, and it's certainly more authentic, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good piece there, and I feel like, Candace, you just have a lot of really good examples of seeing that in action. I know that you've shared the is it the Hawaiian rolls story seems to be
Yeah,
your go-to example, but I
it's
think there's a
my
lot of
favorite.
them that you've seen. Yeah,
Yeah, I love
um,
that King's Hawaiian took 90%, roughly, don't quote me, roughly 90% of their marketing budget and pulled it from traditional advertising and put it into content create or, influencer marketing. And it more than paid for itself many times over because now everywhere you see a rotisserie chicken in a grocery store, you see King's Hawaiian right next to it. You now know how to use King's Hawaiian to make breakfast, lunch, dessert, appetizers. They're made for everything because the content creators are like, well, we'll show you how to use this in every way, sweet, savory, both. I mean, they were so smart and they were doing it before everybody else was, and it has absolutely paid off. I love that.
mhm. And I think the other thing too to highlight really in all of these webinars that we do is that influencer marketing is highly quantifiable when you are, having to establish KPIs for this strategy. And coming up with the specific tactics of your campaign that you might do if you are, looking into influencer marketing, because there is all of the social data. There's Google Analytics, whatever platform, and as we said, your budget, you can go as far and granular as you want or as broad. There's a lot of ranges, but any of those touch points and what you end up doing because they are digital, you will be able to track them better. And certainly, marketing I think has its gray areas where it's like, how do I track the ROI, the return, however you want to quantify that on the investment that we're putting into this. So I definitely advocate for that and call that out
Mhm.
as a way to make sure that you can prove
Yeah.
that if that's you as a small business owner and you're making those decisions, or you're reporting, to your C-suite and the leadership on your team and have to
Mhm.
pitch this. Keep that in mind as you're looking at that, especially in times where maybe budgets might be tightening up.
Mhm. So definitely, I think it's important that because everything is so, it's right now happening literally yesterday, the day before, all these things. So I would love to just kind of go over just a couple things about so what's new with the FTC? What do you need to know as a brand working with a creator? So in 2023, the FTC updated its endorsement guidelines and facts. You probably know that, but the core message was basically transparency is a shared responsibility. If a creator fails to disclose your brand, could be liable if they're working with you. So I think for a long time it was kind of like, just maybe mention it at the bottom. And now everyone's like,
Hmm.
oh no, put it big. Make sure you tag paid sponsorship, partnership, all of those things. And it's not going to hurt you. Don't worry about that. Because these updates didn't rewrite the rules, they clarified the expectation of compliance, especially around disclosure visibility. So for you, what you must include in creator contracts now, it's super important, is require clear, visible, and ambiguous disclosure. So hashtag ad, sponsored by, at the start of the caption or spoken within the first few seconds of a video. So we want people to know right off the bat. In fact, I just saw one the other day from our friend Jocelyn at Grand Baby Cake. She did a cute little casserole with Campbell's, and on the video, hashtag Campbell's partner in the caption, Campbell's partner. Everything was in there like it was supposed to be, and that's great because it didn't change the way I felt about the video. I enjoyed watching it. She's creating something wonderful, but I do like knowing that I'm not trying to be misled, that this is a sponsored post. So that's something that's super important. But now the FTC emphasizes that disclosures must be unavoidable, meaning there's no hidden hashtags. You're not relying only on the paid partnership label. That's why I was saying the video, the caption, the paid partnership label, it's multiple things. On platforms like TikTok and Reels, the disclosure should be in the first 3 seconds, spoken or shown visually. So very quickly. Um, and then also work with your creators to say disclosures out loud or use on-screen text at the start of the video and provide creators with swipeable examples. So go grab Jocelyn's from Grand Baby Cakes and be like, here's a perfect example of what we're looking for. And have compliance
Hmm.
checklists. This is super important for you if you're working with creators. I just did a wonderful campaign with Hungry Root, and I had a 13-page creator brief, and it was beautiful because it laid everything out for me, what we want to see, what we don't want to see. And you know what, it didn't take away my creativity. It wasn't like, this is the voice we want you to use, this is the recipe, this is everything. It just said, this is what you need to follow, this is what we want to avoid. And I had all like direction, and it was so fun, and I got it approved ahead of time, and it was me. Everyone could see that it was me coming through, but also I was sharing something that was important to me. I'd been using their products for 2 years. And I do think that helps that I'd been using their products for 2 years before I did a paid campaign with them. I do think
Hmm.
that is important to find those creators who are already using your products and love them. So when you do push a paid project, everyone's like, well, I already know she loves Campbell's, or I already know she loves Hungry Root. That's great, no problem. Um, so I think that's important. And then when it comes to food content specifically, it's so important that they not use things like cures or heals or I feel more
Yeah.
energized is fine, but this fixed my fatigue is not, things like that.
Yeah.
And making sure in
I can,
contracts you're
yeah.
requiring a pre-approval of any claims tied to wellness or nutrition.
Yeah. And can I speak to that? Because I feel like
Yeah.
in that realm, I know Candace has, we both have celiac disease. So I think in terms of like health, we talk a lot about our health. But on my website, it is very focused on more of this functional food. Because have had health issues in the past, autoimmune diseases, and so my platform in a lot of ways is and was using food to support my health and my own personal healing. And I went and got a certification in holistic nutrition and in herbalism, using plant medicine in that way. And I think the reason this is relevant right now is we are seeing a huge rise in functional food as an expectation to the everyday consumer. They want a touch of that, and a lot of their foods, it's no longer like this fringe hippie thing. The rise of probiotic sodas and protein and everything, right? These are very mainstream trends that people care more about their health and their food. And we see that being a trend that's going to carry forward. So I think
Yeah.
this is extremely important, to talk about that and to coach and really just do your own research on that. The word support is really popular. I mean, I'm even sitting here looking at like I have a can of Olipop, right? A new kind of soda. And you'll look at here, it says supports digestive health. And that is
Mhm.
something I definitely had to learn just in my own training with that
Mhm.
of they have entire clauses around that. So If you are a functional food brand or you are starting to integrate that into your product line, definitely recommending doing your own due diligence. And again, to what Candace was saying, be educating your creators, even if like in the brief, have that, because I think there are a lot of things, that we don't see. And even just looking at how Google and the social media and search engines, how you go get penalized and get your content hidden, or it won't rank properly if you are making claims that are you are not a certified health practitioner or physician that is authorized to make those claims. It can have a lot of detrimental effects for the creator. And in addition to that, you as the brand, you're investing and paying this money, and then your content's not going to get seen because it's violating those guidelines and regulations specifically.
Well, and I think it's a nice balance of empowering creators with clarity, not micromanagement. No creator wants to be
Hmm.
micromanaged. They're a creator because they are independent and they are a forward thinker and all of those things. So micromanagement isn't going to get you what you want. You've seen the ads that look like an ad, and you've seen the ad that you're like, wow, that was super creative. I want to still make this recipe, but I can see now that it used this product and that they integrated it. If you're micromanaging, you're not going to get that same storytelling that we talked about. Um, so I just kind of wanted to give a quick example of my work with Hungry Root. It started with, we had a relationship. I've been using them for years. And, speaking of how Abby said we both have celiac disease, in my reel, I said I've been using this. It's been a very helpful tool for me with having celiac disease to be able to get gluten-free groceries right to my front door. And I kind of just did it very organically because that is the truth. It helps me in my small town. So how it worked with our partnership is we had that going, and I said, I have an idea. I know what you have. I know you have milk. I know you have onions. I know you have these things. I have done the SEO research on my side to see that this is a really great term for gluten-free onion rings, that it's high search volume, low competition, and I think it would work great. And it's very organic for me to use the groceries. And they said, great, that sounds wonderful. And then I went ahead with making the recipe myself, putting it together. I opened the box, I pulled the ingredients out because I ordered them ahead of time. It just felt very cohesive. I had the creator brief. So there was multiple times that I referred back to it going, did I say what I needed to, did I address that correctly? Did I use the right hashtag? And I was grateful for that because otherwise I'm going back and forth with the contact there. I would just much rather have that creative brief. So that was how mine worked. And you know what? The audience loved it. It was something that I think is going to do very well on Google. It just went live a couple days ago, but I think it's going to do very well because it does. I did my research on the SEO and all the other things. And so when you're putting together your compliance checklist, make sure you let them know where the disclosure goes, what needs approval ahead of time. I didn't have anything that needed approval, and I was very grateful for that. I think that's becoming less and less because of that creator clarity rather than micromanagement. But if you do need to approve something, let them know. Basically, mine just had to be the recipe itself. And then how to submit content for quick review if you require the review before it goes live. They knew me, they trusted me, and they were like, we're good. You go ahead. So I was grateful for that. But for you, each of you, it's going to look a little bit different. And so making sure that you put all those things in your creator brief. But truly, empowering creators with the right tools and guidance will give you really great content that gives you the strong ROI and the peace of mind that you've followed through with the guidelines.
Yeah. And I think that you summarized that beautifully. Like the main takeaway here is transparency doesn't hurt performance. It builds trust. Like Candace was saying, when you empower creators to be open and authentic, it gives them the tools to stay compliant. Your brand stays more credible, which will lend to long-term value through conversion, through, purchasing. The one piece we still can't quantify is when I'm walking through the grocery store in a physical way and I'm scanning the shelves and, I'm looking at the Hawaiian rolls. We'll continue to use that. I'm like, oh yeah, I heard Candace talk about those. I'm gonna grab those, right? It's those
Yeah.
little intangible, non-tangible moments, but they do make a big difference. And I think creators do a really good job of helping build like that social capital and social proof around your brand. So
Well, with
we are
the
out of
with
time.
oh, I was just going to say quickly
Oh yeah, yeah.
with the rolls, they were wise because they didn't just take 15% and dabble. They didn't just
Hmm.
say, let's just try and see how it goes. They went all in, basically 90%, and it flooded the market with everywhere you went, you saw recipes from Hungary or from I'm thinking over from King's Hawaiian. You saw sweet rolls, you saw Easter, you saw Christmas, you saw Thanksgiving. They flooded the market and they went not only in the food vertical, they were heavy in the food, obviously, but then they also filtered over a little bit into some of the party girls in using them in their parties. They filtered over a little bit into the style who do food. There's a couple like Macy Blackwell. She does a lot of style, but she does a lot of food as well. And they grabbed her up and they're like, okay, people like quick stuff from Macy. She's not making a ton of stuff from scratch. So they showed that as well. Some semi homemade, some things made from scratch, some things made for parties. I was so impressed with the way they flooded it.
Yeah, they're a good example. So, we are unfortunately out of time, but we love getting questions. So if you want to drop in the comments, send us an email. We are here to be a resource for you. For influencer marketing, we really want to advocate and legitimize the creator economy as a viable and important part of your marketing strategy when thinking about your brand and how you can merchandise it to the world and get in touch with consumers in a real and authentic way. So, Candace, I'll let you close out with how people can get in contact if they want to chat more and or pick our brains or anything that they need.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to talk to you if you're just saying, okay, this was super helpful, but I also have some questions specifically for our brand and who we want to work with and things like that. I would love to talk to you. We do strategy calls. And so Daphne will drop the link to my Calendly. It's a 30-minute, just feel free to grab a time on my calendar. No pressure or anything. We'd love to just chat and look forward to answering any questions that you have and help you. That's what we're here for, to bridge, food content creators and brands and really just make this whole community better. So I look forward to seeing you guys show up on the calendar and chatting with you soon. And thanks again for joining our brand webinar. We'll be excited to bring you another one in Q3 and continue the conversation. We hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.